We're going to be checking out Chaos Envision today and looking at some of the key capabilities it has for us. So first, what is Chaos Envision? So Chaos Envision is a standalone 3D visualization tool. It's 100% ray trace, so we're going to be looking at some of the amazing quality that we can get out of it today. So let's jump in and check it out. Now first, one of the key capabilities that Envision has is scene assembly. So you can compile scenes from any different design application that any Chaos product supports. So in this case, we're inside of Revit with Enscape. So we're going to export the 3D view that we want as a VR scene file. Now what this is going to do is bring across the geometry, the materials, any Enscape assets that we had. Now we're inside of SketchUp. We're going to look at bringing in the site as well. You can see here we have a Rhino file. This has some very nice detailed buildings that we want to use for our site. And for this one, we're going to use the V-Ray exporter. So we're going to export a VR mesh. If you don't have Enscape or V-Ray, there is a version that you can install that will allow you to export a VR scene as well. Currently only available for SketchUp and Rhino right now. Now here's the splash screen of Envision. You can see we can create a new scene, or we can utilize some of the sample scenes that come with Envision as well. For this demonstration, we'll be looking at how to create that Revit onboarding scene. So we're going to do this file import, and we're going to take those files that we exported from Enscape and V-Ray and combine them into one scene. So I'm going to take that first VR scene that we exported from SketchUp. So that's the site. So here we go. Again, it brought in the geometry, it brought in the materials, it brought in the lights as well. Now we're going to bring in the Revit file for our building. There we go. Notice it brought in, again, all the geometry, all the lights. Now for our Rhino scene. All right, there's our nice detailed buildings brought in from Rhino. And again, this is probably the biggest thing. All the geometry comes across, all the materials come across, all the lights come across as well. Everything is selectable. And notice the Rhino file that we have, or the Revit file that we have, all the categories came across from Revit. So walls, windows, lighting fixtures, doors, things like that. Now we can do object level manipulation. We can also click on individual lights, adjust that intensity as well. If our scene did not have lights, we can also add lights in from inside of Envision as well. But again, object level manipulation, that's where we can manipulate any piece of geometry inside of the scene. Now, if we are using a DCC tool like 3ds Max, Maya, Cinema 4D, we can also export out of those FBX files, OBJ files, Collada files. We can also utilize V-Ray to export out VR scenes from there. Or we can go to third-party sites as well. TurboSquid, Globe Plants. There's a helpful resources guide on our website where we have a lot of different websites out there where you can go find free and paid sites for 3D models. For this demonstration today, I'm going to be using Sketchfab, a really cool model I found that's going to fit really nicely into our scene. So this was actually a scan that this person created and made it available to download for free. So I'm just going to download the OBJ file. What I can do now is click import and bring in that OBJ file as well. And there we go. Now it's imported. Now I just have to scale it scale it and place it to the exact location and size that I would like. Now where this gets really powerful is you can bring in files from any different sources as well, like we were talking about, Max, Maya, Cinema 4D, or any program that can export an OBJ file or an FBX file or a Collada file. So beyond 3ds Max, Maya, Cinema 4D, you can bring in files or FBX files from, say, InfraWorks or SolidWorks. Any program that can export those different file types can be brought in inside of Envision. And we can see here, we're navigating in a fully ray traced environment here. So you can handle large scenes and maintain that quality as well. Now with my FBX file, I'm simply just going to I'm just going to load in the material that came with it. And we can see again, this is all in real time. All right, now that we have our scene assembled, what happens if we make a change to the model inside of, say, Revit? Because we all know that's going to happen. Well, with Envision, we have a feature, or we have a functionality to where if you make a change inside of the host design application, you simply just have to go re-export that file, and then you can go inside and click a new version path inside of Envision here. So we just click the plus button, we load in that new VR scene file that we exported with the new changes from, in this case, Revit, and we can see those new changes applied. So any of the work we've already done in Envision is not going to be overwritten. It's just going to simply take those new changes from the host design application, and we can see we can filter back and forth between the two. Now I'm going to create a new camera, and we're going to start bringing our scene to life with the use of Chaos Cosmos assets. So we're going to start by adding in some trees like we can see here. And I'm simply clicking and placing these one by one. And we can see the level of quality that we can get from the Chaos Cosmos assets. So much, much higher quality. You know, these are built for photorealistic rendering. So you can be assured that you're going to get some very nice quality out of these. Now we were placing these one by one. So we're going to look at how we can utilize Chaos Scatter to start scattering, or to start mass populating our scene. So what we're going to do is click the scatter tool. I'm going to select the surface that I want to create a scatter from, click done. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to utilize some of the presets that come with Chaos Cosmos. So I'm going to pick my preset that has some grass, some dandelions, and some flowers in it. I'm simply just going to click and drag that onto the surface. And there we go. Our preset has been applied. We can click on the object, and then we can see all the different models that were inside that preset. And now I can see the level of detail that I'm getting with Envision and with the Cosmos assets as well. We can see this is all in real time. This is 100% ray trace. And so we can see the level of quality that we're getting the whole time. Or now we can create a path that we can place trees on as well. So I'm going to create a spline. And I can also utilize scatter to scatter along a path as well. There we go. And I can set the distance between them. I can set the number too. Now let's jump to a scene where it's fully fleshed out. So as you see, we have vehicles, we have trees as well in this scene. Again, using the same techniques applied. Now, what we're going to do is let's add some people. So we're going to look at another key capability that Envision has is animation. So first we're going to look at animated people. So I'm going to click the anima crowd, and I'm going to draw out my path. Now once my path is drawn out, I can further fine tune that by picking on any point I want along the spline and adjusting that, especially if we're going around curves. I can adjust the curvature of those points as well. I could choose between Bezier curve, Catmull, some different interpolation methods as well. And now I'm going to click on the anima crowd, and what I can do to start adding people is to simply drag and drop from the Cosmos library into our model, and we can filter out people that are animated by 40 characters and animated. And again, I can just click and drag them onto the scene. If I already have characters that are downloaded, I can click the actor count, set that actor count to what I want it to be, and then click generate. And from there, that is going to generate the actor count that I want, and it's going to put them on our path. Now to preview this, to preview what they're going to look like walking around, I can go to full screen mode. So in full screen mode, this is where I can be walking around the scene, doing scene exploration, and seeing my animated people and vehicles moving around as well. Notice that the people are not walking through each other. This is a very big capability of the 4D characters. They're going to do like a little sidestep so they're not walking through each other, adding more realism to it. So we can see when they get close to each other, they're going to subtly move out of the way to avoid each other. This is where some of the realism capabilities of Envision come in. Intelligent people, fully motion captured people as well, so they're actual natural movements. And being able to navigate the scene and being able to do scene exploration while the animations are playing is another really big key capability of Envision. All right, let's quickly add some cars to our scene as well. So utilizing the same path-based functionality. So I'm going to click my path. I'm going to click in place where I want my cars to drive on. And utilizing Chaos Cosmos, I can go to our library and click some vehicles that I want. So I'm simply just going to click in place and add a vehicle onto that path. Now to add it to the path and animate along, I'm going to pick the spline. I'm going to click the move along spline and select the path that I want or select the spline that I want that vehicle to move along. Now to adjust the speed of that, I can click the move along spline options, and then from there I can set the speed, the offset, and if it's going to loop or stop or be exaggerated. Now what's really cool is I can do meters per second or miles per second as well. Now again, to preview that, I'm going to go into full screen mode, and then I can preview what our animated objects are going to look like. So we can see our people are moving, our vehicles are moving. I'm just going to add a couple more cars to our scene here. And I can do the same thing, add that vehicle to that path, but I can also offset it. So I'm going to set the speed to be the same speed, but I'm going to offset that so they're not right on top of each other there. And I'm going to add a couple more cars here so we can have cars going on both directions of the road. Now again, I can preview that. There we go. Now we have our people moving, our vehicles moving. All right. In addition to people, vehicles, and vegetation, we also have the ability to utilize the materials coming from Chaos Cosmos. So this is where, if we want to further enhance our scene, we can utilize Cosmos materials. So I can just simply click and drag the materials I want onto the objects, and then I can also select every object that has that material assigned to it, and I can apply that to every single material again that object or that material is associated with. And I can embed the material so then I can further edit that material as well. Another key capability of Envision is the ability to do triplanar mapping. So for design applications that don't do UV mapping, this is a really, really big benefit. And I can also do the randomization and make seamless, so it's going to add more realism to those materials there. One of my personal favorites is going to be the ability to do rounded corners. So again, I can select the material I want, and then I can go inside of our rounded corners feature, and all I have to do is simply turn on rounded corners. And then we can see we're getting a really nice rounded corner effect on our object. And I can go and adjust how much I want that to be. I can do convex and concave, but for this one I'm going to do convex. So I just want to focus on the outside edge. In addition to those features, we do have other enhancements as well that we can utilize with these materials inside of Envision, inside of our material editor in Envision. So we can do coat and varnish. So this is really cool. So this is where we can add like a top layer. So I want to add some puddles to our scene. So I can simply just load in an imperfection map that's going to simulate the puddles. And what's going to be really cool about this is I can adjust this texture independently, like we'll see here. So now again, this was adjusted independently of the base material as well. So that's a really big added value right there, these enhancement materials. In addition to that, one of the other enhancements that we have in Envision that we have is the ability to load in our own materials from external sources. This is where you can select the material and then you can load in your own material maps. So we're going to load in the base color. Then we're going to load in a normal map. And then we're going to load in the roughness map. And then under the enhancements tab, there is an option for displacement map. So this is where we can actually do displacement map, where it's actually going to displace the geometry. So we're going to get a really nice effect for this. So again, I'm just going to load in a displacement map for this one. Wherever it's black is recessed, white is going to be raised up. And we can see what this is going to do for us here. Notice the actual displacement going on here. So around the corners, you're going to get actual displacement between the grout lines. So it's going to give you a much more realistic effect here. Okay, now that we have our scene populated with all the different models from the different design applications, we have assets applied, we have people, vehicles, vegetation, we have our material setup. Let's look at some of the different camera settings that come with Envision. Click on the camera that you would like, and then from there, under the details panel, all the different properties for that camera are going to come up. So we can see we can set the field of view for focal length or field of view as well. You can dial it in for millimeters, or you can do degrees. We have our exposure settings, and then we also have our depth of field. So this is where you can pick a focal distance that you'd like. And then we can adjust the aperture settings as well. Notice the depth of field taking effect in real time there. We can also do 2-point perspective. And there's where we can set the view angle for distance or millimeter, or for field of view or focal length. Under the color corrections tab, this is where we have some different color correction options. So filmic tone mapping, we can go there and adjust the gamma or the linear strength or anything, or the linear angle, anything about that filmic tone map that we would like. We can load in our own LUT files if we have them. We can toggle on the bloom feature, hue saturation. All of these features can be applied to different cameras as well by copying the camera settings, pasting camera settings. And then all of this can be animated as well, which we'll look at in a bit. In addition to the camera settings, there's also an environment setting. So this is where we can do some weather effects. So all the cloud, so we can adjust the cloud density just like in Enscape, the variety as well, longitude, latitude, and even altitude. So a lot of customization we can utilize with our cloud features here. We also have the option for wind. So all your trees and your vegetation will be moving in the wind as well. And then we also have an option for haze. So this is where you can do some fog. And then under the sun position, we have geolocation, or we have azimuth altitude. Under the geolocation, you can type in the exact longitude and latitude of the building if you would like. Or if you have it, you can also copy it from the clipboard. And then you can adjust the time of day here like we can see. There's also an option to add in HDR files. So we can utilize custom ones that we found online, or we can utilize some of the built-in ones that come with Chaos Cosmos. Once we pick one that we want, all we have to do is simply click and drag that onto our scene. And now we can rotate that as well. We can adjust the intensity of it. All right, now that we have all that set up, let's look at another key capability, the ability to do variations. So variations are another really critical part of Envision. So variations are where you can set infinite number of variations. So this is where you can select object level variation. So you can click on objects. You can start doing phasing animations, things like that. Material variations. Earlier I talked about anything that is selectable is editable, or animatable. Anything that is selectable is animatable. Again, I'm going to create a new variation. I'm going to create a start and an end. And I'm going to simply pick my buildings and move them up for the last variation. And now to preview that, all I have to do is grab a camera and drag that to my timeline. And inside my timeline, I have the ability to add in the variations here. So I'm going to add the start variation and the end variation. I can adjust my clip just by moving that out. We'll get into keyframes in a second. And then we can see here, I'm just adjusting my variation for how long I want that transition to be. And I'm simply going to click preview. Now we can see my variation is being played there. So it's a very simple start. I want it to start from here and end here. And again, I can assign anything to a variation. So under the transitions options, this is where we have a couple different options inside of here. So under the ordering, this is where we can do different presets. So we can do some cool spiral, spherical, then we can ease in and ease out. Let's check out a fully fleshed out phasing animation here with a different project. There we go. So we can see what this is looking like. So this is utilizing that ordering functionality there. Now under the environment variation, we're going to click the plus button to add a new variant. So I'm going to, again, start, end. And for the end, I'm going to adjust the density of the clouds. Change the variety. I'm going to adjust the cirrus amount. And we're going to adjust the longitude offset. So this is where you can animate the clouds moving along and animate the clouds growing as well. And we can see since there was a change in the variation, I'm simply just going to have to click save. So that's a good way to note that any change you make, you can see those being applied, or you can see those, it's going to give you that nice yellow box around it. So again, for the environment variation, I'm going to simply take my two variations and put them on our timeline there for under the environment section. And I'm just going to adjust the length that I want that transition to be, so I can preview how that's going to look. I'm just going to bring that out a little bit more. All right, now that we have those set up, let's look at how we can animate the cameras. Drag my camera to the timeline. And then we can see I'm going to go to the end of the clip. And I'm simply going to move the camera to the end point that I want. And now we can see that camera is going to do a nice little animation for me. I'm going to drag another clip and do the same exact thing. I'm going to move my camera. I'm going to go to the end of the clip, and I'm going to move the camera to the next spot that I want. But now this is a really powerful, this is another key capability of Envision, being able to add multiple different cameras to the timeline. So you can really start to tell your story of your final design here. And it'll jump between the different clips as well. So instead of having to render out one clip, another clip, and then combine those in, say, Adobe Premiere, you can combine all those cameras inside of Envision here. Now again, I'm going to add another clip, and I'm going to do a nice subtle move forward on my statue here. I'm going to preview what this is going to look like. Now there's another way that we can animate cameras. We can draw a path, and we can assign a camera to a path. So I can simply click and drag where I want my path to be. Bring that path up a little bit. And then from here, I can use the move along spline option. So I can simply select my camera and then select the move along spline and pick that spline. And now what I can do is I can utilize the transformations and manipulate my camera in all different axes and orientations. So I can get some really nice creative effects going on here with this. And now for the move along speed, I can set that speed as well. So let's say I want it to move like 5 meters a second. Now, what I can do to preview that is drag that camera to my timeline now. And I can preview how that camera is going to move along the spline. And I can extend that as well if I want. Extend the length of that clip. Now we can add another level of realism here by adding sound inside of our scene. So I can simply click my soundtrack, load in a soundtrack that I want, and I can click preview, and I can hear the sound playing as I'm previewing my whole animation. So another really cool capability of Envision here. All right, now we're ready to share our designs with our clients. So we have a couple different ways we can do that. So if you go to the render tab up top, you click render images. This is where it's going to bring up the render setup. So this is where we can see the camera we can pick for still images. We can choose the type of camera. So we have a spherical and stereoscopic spherical. We can set the output resolution that we would like. Set the rendering quality as well. Set the samples, and then really cool feature is the channels. So we have Back to beauty, we have geometry. So we'll get a lot of different render output options there. And then for the output, we have to save to our local device. We have a lot of variety of formats we can export. We have the ability to send to the cloud for Chaos Cloud collaboration. So that's where we can utilize the power of Chaos Cloud there. And then for the AI enhancer as well, we can upload that to the cloud to do the AI enhancer. And then for the sequence, this is where we can render out the video. So again, render output options, resolution, frames per second, can output the frames, and we can see the output options that we'll get for our sequence. All right, and with that, that was an overview of some of the key capabilities of Chaos Envision and how it works. Thanks for joining us. Definitely feel free to reach out if you guys have any questions. Thanks, everybody.